Hello, I'm Hannah, and this is Hannah's Books. Well, I am back to Booktube, more or less, and really glad to see all of you. I'm a little more than 2 weeks out of rotator cuff repair surgery and healing nicely. I've started physical therapy now, and it's definitely hard work. It's also been challenging to get through daily life with only my non-dominant hand. But I've definitely found some workarounds, and I'll come back to that in just a minute. What I haven't started successfully doing again yet is reading. Reading a physical book is, of course, difficult because of my huge sling with its big bolster underneath my arm. It makes it impossible to hold my book in the spot where my reading glasses can focus on the page. But the physical barrier is really not the problem. I can't focus my attention on my e-reader either. And I'm even having trouble listening to audiobooks, especially fiction, since I fall asleep within seconds of starting it. I did not expect this to still be a problem at 2 weeks, but I'm not panicking yet. I've clawed back reading after two much more serious illnesses, and this time should be much easier. So, since I have barely read and have seen a limited amount of Booktube actually, I thought I would spend just a few minutes sharing some of the tricks and aids that have helped me through my recovery for shoulder surgery. The first is friends and neighbors. For those of you who are new here, I'll say very briefly that my spouse David died of brain cancer 2 years ago. He was not only an amazingly careful, gentle caregiver, but also a research physician who could answer my medical questions and suggest when I needed to be talking to my doctor. This is the first big medical thing I've gone through since his death. And that was both emotional and practically difficult, partly because of the loss of some of the moment-to-moment intimate care that a spouse can provide. I was incredibly grateful to have my amazing group of old friends. One drove me to surgery and stayed with me all day long. I stayed with another family for the first 4 nights. They got up in the middle of the night to help me take my meds and go to the bathroom, etc. After that, I stayed the next 4 nights with another friend who helped me take my first shower and my first walk around the neighborhood. And by the end of my days there, I was ready to be home alone. Alone, but with friends and neighbors on call if necessary. A variety of items have helped me through my single-handed life. One is that I bought myself a cheap recliner, since I might be sleeping in it for about 4 months. My house is old and small, and even what was marketed as a small recliner eats up a lot of my living room. But I must say that it has allowed me to sleep well, which is pretty uncommon with this kind of surgery, I gather. Even with a recliner, I have to stay fairly upright, and I have to sleep in my sling, too. It is on 24/7, except when I'm doing some of my PT exercises or for showers, roughly once every 3rd day, when it gets replaced with a far less protective shower sling made of mesh. The other thing that has allowed me to sleep is a medical ice machine, something my medical center provided, but can also be bought by individuals. It looks a little like a portable cooler that one might fill with sodas and sandwiches on the way to the beach, but with a tube coming out that connects to a pad that velcros around my shoulder. I put 6 frozen water bottles inside along with some cold water and then turn it on, and the cold water travels through the tube and fills the pad. It stays icy for more than 12 hours. My machine has a timer for how long the water stays on or circulates, and then how long it is off. Right now, I have it set for 10 minutes on at the lowest setting, and then 20 minutes off, and I only wear it at night. And it goes through that cycle all night long. If you ever find yourself dealing with a joint issue or something like that, I highly recommend trying to acquire an ice machine through your hospital or bought used or whatever. Strapping on the shoulder pad without help isn't easy at first, but it isn't impossible either. Okay, onto a few smaller things that are a little quirkier. One are sticky pads, not the kind you annotate your books with, but rubber-like pads to use as a base to keep things from sliding around. First, it allows you to open jars and even childproof medicine caps with just one hand, like magic. I also use one as my placemat at the table to keep my plate still when I'm trying to spread hummus on my toast or cut something relatively soft, like cooked zucchini. I still can't cut anything much firmer than that. The sticky pad even makes it possible to eat from a single portion of yogurt without it sliding all over the table. I keep a third pad in my kitchen sink to help me wash dishes, along with a hand-sized scrub brush that I find easier to control with my non-dominant hand than my usual sponge. The sticky pad keeps the dish from moving around as much while I'm trying to scrub. I have a couple of different brands of sticky pads, and I vastly prefer the ones from the company Dyson. They're pretty essential to my ability to be mostly independent as I go about my day, which is pretty cool for such a plain little thing. Two more little things. First, elasticized shoelaces. So far, I've only worn my favorite old Birkenstock slip-on sandals with socks because it's cold. I feel even more hippie than usual. But last night, a young friend came by and swapped out the regular ties on my walking sneakers for pre-tied stretchy ones that make it possible for me to put them on myself, even though I can't tie the laces. Very cool. And finally, this all-purpose piece of cheap plastic. One end is a shoehorn, which makes putting on those newly adapted sneakers even easier. The other end has a subtle hook that makes it easier to put on heavier outerwear that rests over my sling rather than actually having my arm going through the armholes. Personally, I find it an easy process to put on lightweight jackets without this device, but it's useful for heavier garments like thick zip-up hoodies. I can also use this device as an aid for PT exercises. Still to come, that will involve me holding the crook with my surgical arm while my other hand holds the stick to control small movements. I'm afraid I'm not explaining it well, and I can't yet demonstrate. Maybe next time. There are tons of other aids that people sometimes acquire, but I'm set with these for myself. A lot of folks buy one-handed button hookers, for example, but I'm dexterous enough with my left hand that I find it easy to button one-handed, and did, in fact, beforehand. Similarly, I'm okay brushing my teeth with my left hand. But a lot of folks in similar situations buy electric toothbrushes to ensure that they're getting good dental hygiene when they're trying to brush with their non-dominant hand, etc. As for personal care, the haircut was a great move. I don't think I could have been nearly as independent showering if I'd had wet hair hanging down my back. I couldn't have dried off my back, for example. And the amount of Velcro in my life right now, between the various sling parts and the wraparound thing for my ice machine wrap, would not have been a good fit with long hair either. The hardest thing for me right now is handwriting. Just a few days after surgery, I had to sign some totally unrelated official paperwork, 10 different spots to sign, and it was a hoot. One of the interesting things to me is that I seem to have dyslexia, or rather dysgraphia, when using my left hand. I write letters backwards about a quarter of the time, I'd say. It makes me wonder if all the stories of mirror writing might be connected in some way to writing with a non-dominant hand. Typing one-handed is much easier, although slow, and I do often reach for the wrong side of my keyboard for dashes and the like. And I keep expecting periods to appear automatically with doublespace, something that happens on my phone, but not my laptop. I have never had that problem before, but going lefty seems to mean all the ingrained rules are newly unbound. Interesting. Well, I really hope to have some bookish content for you next time. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this little break, as well as today's weird little video. See you soon here on Hannah's Books.